Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. Now on this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy and governance. I am Ibrahim Yusuf. Now in 1981, 1 million naira was equivalent to approximately $1.6 million. Today, 1 million naira is equivalent to around $2,300. A great depreciation from the glory days of the naira, with an official exchange rate of around 420 naira to a dollar, and a black market rate of around 720 naira to a dollar. Nigerians have been dealing with frequent price increase of commodities and an inflation rate of around 18.6%, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. What then is the way out? Joining us to discuss the issues, we have in the studio Professor Uche Uwaleke, Professor of Capital Market at the Nasarawa State University, KEFI, and former Imo State Commissioner of Finance. And we also have policy analyst Dr. Jennings Ekanyawu. So I hope I got that right in the studio.
That's
Gentlemen,
correct.
you're
Thank
welcome.
you very much.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim.
They'll be giving us their perspective to the issues. Now let's take a short break, and when we return, the conversation commences. Do stay with us. Welcome back. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV. Now, let's kick off the discussion. Prof, what exactly is happening?
Ibrahim, you can ask that question again. What exactly is happening?
Because we all want to know what is happening. We just saw the
Exactly.
we just gave a background of how things
Exactly.
were and how rapidly
Exactly.
they have deteriorated.
You even taking off from your background there. Why was it that in 1980, for example, the naira was almost at par with the dollar? And today we have seen the naira exchanging for as high as 700 naira, at least in the parallel market.
Exactly.
Even if we use the official market, 430, to the dollar. Okay, why was it? Well, why is it so? It's important to recognize that exchange rate is nothing but the price of foreign currency. So if we say the exchange rate of the naira to the dollar is this, it is simply the rate at which we are exchanging for the dollar. So it is the price of the dollar.
Okay.
And what determines price essentially is demand and supply, forces. That's what determines price.
Okay.
And for us here in Nigeria, unfortunately, the naira has suffered from the simultaneous impact of low supply and high demand. If you take demand, for example, Ibrahim, you and I know, you mentioned 1980. You and I know that in 1980, you can say about 75% of the cars that were driven in Nigeria were produced, assembled in Nigeria. And at Volkswagen, we had Peugeot in Kaduna. Okay, that is no longer the case. Today, 99% of cars driven here are imported. Okay, take even what we are wearing, clothes, for example. 1980, most of what we wear, what was worn at the time, locally produced. Today, where are the textile factories? There are no more. We had in Funtua, we had in Kano, we had in Kaduna, we had in Aba, and the rest of them. They've all gone. So you now realize that the demand for forex is on the high side.
What can be attributed to the death of these industries that you just talked about, and before you go forth? What can be attributed to that? Because we've talked about the textiles, the assembly plants.
Yes.
I thought these things were supposed to progress and improve.
Exactly.
Why the rapid disappearance?
Policy failures, over time. No deliberate, intention to even encourage those industries, encourage those companies. When you have a harsh business environment, coupled with the fact, as I said earlier on, there wasn't any deliberate policy to really incentivize them.
Okay.
Okay. Take for example the issue of cars, as I talked about. I said majority now imported. If the government over time, were patronizing locally made cars, okay, if government and the Nigerians too were patronizing locally made products, that wouldn't be the case. Of course, they folded up because maybe they had issues with getting raw materials for firms, okay, or the demand was not even there. Now, if you take the case of Invisibles, between 1998 and 2018, okay, if you look at the record from the UNESCO Institute of Statistics, it says that the number of Nigerians that were abroad, okay, studying abroad, fewer than 15,000. Today, it is nearly 100,000 Nigerians studying abroad. Okay, so you can see the impact of that on the forex, and that takes a whole chunk. We understand that between 2010 and 2020, the forex demand for foreign education, is in the region of $29 billion. You take medical tourism again. That medical tourism costs as much as $1 billion every year. So over a 10-year period, you have about 10 billion.
Exactly.
So if you take medical tourism and education abroad, you have about $40 billion spent just over a 10-year period, and that's the equivalent of the current external reserves, that we have now.
Okay.
So, are you talking about invisibles? I've talked about invisibles, import of cars, the issue of even the textiles and so on. So you now find that when it comes to demand, the demand has really increased.
Okay.
Import bills. Our import bill, used to be as low as there was a time it was maybe $16 billion. Today, import bill is, you can check, as of 2019, okay, gone as high as $55 billion.
All right. You made
that's even on the demand side.
Okay.
On the supply side, we're also having the same, I say simultaneous. Over 90% of our forex comes from just sale of crude oil.
Exactly.
And if you have a situation in which your forex earnings, has dwindled over time, of course, you're also bound to have this imbalance in demand supply of forex, which will of course lead to the fall of the naira.
All right.
Yes.
Well, you made a very interesting point there, and one of the things that I actually picked up on was you mentioned policy.
Yes.
The good thing about it is I have a policy analyst right here in the studio. Doctor, where did we get it wrong?
Well, I think the prof has certainly said it. We got it wrong for what I call policy somersault.
Okay.
We were not consistent with policy that really, made sense for the country. Subsequent regimes, came into existence, and some brought in policies that were not friendly to the people, like privatization. During that period where we took loan from the IMF and all kinds of policies, rammed into Nigerian political setting.
But we were told privatization, we were sold privatization as a good thing.
Well, privatization, in the true sense of it, with the way it works in developing economies, and it's not the way it works in Nigeria.
Okay.
Like the only country that is making wave, in terms of privatization is like Rwanda, because Rwanda, like the prof said one thing about deliberate policy. If a country must survive, it must hinges its survival on what I call deliberate policy. That you must decide that this is how you're going, this is what you want, and this is what you tend to achieve. So our policy formulators at different times, it didn't have what I call consistent policy that is set out for a long time, because policy is either a long time project, or it's a short time project or a mid time project. So they were doing somersault policies, or just come change this regime, decide to do another thing. So Nigeria was like, let's do this and see how it works. So like he rightly said, everything he said about the foreign exchange, because we're a country that's so crazy about everything foreign.
Yeah.
So we didn't diversify economy when we were really producing oil, because oil is our mainstay. It's about 90% of what we get generated comes from oil. So we didn't think of sustaining the agricultural sector and also sustaining other sector, because the global world, the global economy today is a multi-sectoral thing. You don't depend on one particular aspect of revenue to survive. So like what has happened today in the war going on in Ukraine and Russia has also become another looking wars. Countries in Europe are beginning to look for alternative, concerning energy and other production of food.
Because you just made mention of the Russia-Ukraine war.
Yes,
a lot of people are attributing that to that, saying that this is a global problem. It's not a Nigerian problem. So why are we on about Nigeria and the government and all that? I mean, like, it's affecting everybody. So we should just take it as it is and hope things get better.
Yeah, because they were not looking inwards. Europe had decided to look inward to say, listen, we won't depend on Russia anymore for gas. So we're trying to look for alternative. So there must be alternative. So oil shouldn't be the mainstay. We shouldn't be focusing more on oil. We should be focusing more on agriculture. We should be focusing more on human capacity. Because countries like India today, 99% of what the Indians use are produced locally in India. India export knowledge. They're the highest knowledge exporter of knowledge today in the world. The economy of China today can't stand without the Indians. So you look at and again, you leverage on the best you can. We're not leveraging on what we have. Rather, we're just leveraging on getting the foreign currency, foreign exchange. Because right now, what is the legal tender in Nigeria is dollar. Nobody's talking about the naira. So the purchasing power right now is nothing to write home about. So everybody is looking up to foreign exchange. And the central bank as an institution that superintends the monetary policy is not doing what they ought to be doing.
Why this dollarization of the Nigerian economy?
Because of our politicians. Our politicians have stolen so much. So they prefer to have these monies in dollar, because if you have it in naira, the FCC can go after you. You can be, investigated. You can be charged as a money launderer.
So it's easier to move.
Yeah. So the politicians are the major problem. So we have politicians who don't understand the public policy issues. So they are there as long as these monies are coming in foreign exchange. We are good to go. And that's what's happening in Nigeria.
That's an interesting point. We will come back to that. But I want Prof's perspective on this. We touched a little bit on it. The federal government, or the Nigerian government, whenever you talk about what the state of the economy is in, and most especially this depreciation of the naira, they always shouts that it is a global economic crisis, that everybody is facing it. It's a worldwide crunch, and UN is like quarter to recession now, and all that. They always say that. How true is this?
To some extent it is true. We know the Russian-Ukraine war is causing a lot of distortions across the globe. As you know, right now, the U.S. has entered recession, technical recession, partly on account of the Russian-Ukraine war. Inflation rate is rising across developed countries. In the U.S., inflation rate for the first time is now over 9%. In the U.K., over 9%. So they are battling with these challenges, and as a result of that, the central banks in those countries are also responding by increasing rates. And that's also affecting the value of the dollar. That's affecting the value of the naira, because if the dollar is appreciating relative to other foreign currencies, what that means is that for us in Nigeria too, the cost of imports will be higher. For us in Nigeria too, the cost of servicing even external debt,
as it is now,
will also be very high. So yes, to some extent, what is happening globally is a factor. But again, we also have our own unique, challenges here.
Okay.
If you noticed, the one of the reasons that has led to the spike, okay, we are having now, or the volatility, the high volatility we are having now in the exchange rate, particularly in the parallel market, has to do with the pre-election year.
Okay.
Activities of politicians, just as you rightly mentioned. We saw a lot of demand for dollars, especially before the primaries, and it is still.
So you're aligning
ongoing.
with Prof now to say
Yes,
the politicians actually.
Yes, it is a pre-election year related, and it is also related to speculative demand for dollar. He also alluded to it because the naira is losing value, inflation rate is rising, so purchasing power of the naira is weakening. So you now find a lot of people now demanding dollar as a store of value. Okay, that is why you see this spike, speculative demand for dollars. So it's not really genuine demand. It's not as if they are demanding dollars, to either to even travel or to do anything. But some of them buy these dollars and put under the pillow.
Okay.
So that is what is putting this pressure. Because if you notice, in the official market,
Yes.
the exchange rate is still in the I&E window, investors and exporters window. It still hovers around 430. The other day, it even appreciated from 431 to 430. So the central bank is, intervening there and ensuring that in that market, that segment of the market is stable. The problem we are having now is in the parallel market, where the rate is so high, and because of the wide margin. Although the challenge there is if the margin widens, so high, it creates opportunities for round tripping. So people now get from the official market and go. Yeah, so that's where the problem is. But I also think, Ibrahim, that the central bank has. It is not the fault of the central bank, really.
Okay.
Yes, what is happening now is not the fault of the central bank. Some of these factors I've mentioned are beyond the central bank. It is not the central bank that is responsible for the Nigerian penchant for foreign goods.
Okay.
It's not the central bank that is asking you, for example, to go abroad and treat your headache in terms of medical tourism. Okay. So the demand and supply forces really are not within the control of the central bank. Although the central bank can help. I know the central bank has implemented some demand management measures, maybe which we shall come to later. And I also know that in terms of supply, they have also done.
All right. So we've talked a lot about it. So let's talk about inflation now.
Yes.
The National Bureau of Statistics pegs this year's inflation rate like
18.6,
13%. Yes.
18.6%.
18%.
Yes.
So exactly, as opposed to 17% in 2021, as it was. So before this global crisis that we're currently facing right now, there was an increase in the inflation rate. Are there not any mechanisms that we can put in place to ensure a reduction in the inflation rate, or maybe or a stabilization, sort of?
You're very correct. Inflation rate even has a role to play in the depreciation of the naira. Even if you we go back to theory. Theory says that one of the factors that also influence exchange rate is inflation rate. The ratio of inflation rate in the foreign country to the ratio of inflation rate in the domestic economy. So when you have inflation rate in the domestic economy, rising, you should expect that exchange rate will, relative to the foreign currency. Exchange rate will rise.
Rise as well.
Again, the way to also understand it, if inflation rate is rising here in Nigeria, for example, people lose faith in the value of the naira, and they tend to demand the foreign currency. So the increase in demand for the foreign currency will shoot up the exchange rate. So inflation has a role in the exchange rate volatility that we're experiencing now. Okay, as you rightly mentioned, inflation rate came in at 18.6%, in June, from 17.71% in May. Okay, if you look at the month on month, it's quite high, which is why the central bank, felt alarmed, and the MPC, Monetary Policy Committee, just the other day increased again the monetary policy rate from 13% to 14%, just in order to see whether they can arrest that. So inflation rate is a challenge. But again, we should recognize that the factors that are driving inflation rate in this country today are mostly non-monetary. In other words, they are supply side factors. You have part of why the cost of bread is high today, part of why the cost of virtually every commodity has gone up, okay, is because of the high energy cost, scarcity of fuel, okay. The diesel cost has gone up, fuel cost has gone up. You have electricity tariff is up.
Exactly.
So
and the electricity is not there.
And the power is not there.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you now aggregate this, the cost of transportation is high. Exactly. These are the things that weigh into the inflation rate. So factories can't, produce if they produce at very high cost, and they have to shift
and sell.
Shift the burden to the ultimate consumer.
All right.
So we really, if we want to tackle inflation rate in Nigeria to bring it down, we need to address these challenges. Okay, we need to ensure that we stop importing fuel. Okay. Okay, there's nothing like fuel subsidy. We need to ensure that at least electricity, people can have power. Okay, these are the things that feed into the cost of the production.
All right. Let me come to you now. Now, the thing is, the ordinary man, the common man, goes to the market every day, and what he sees are prices increasing on a daily basis, sometimes on an hourly basis. You go to buy something now, and then it's at this price. You go back in the evening, the price has changed, and it's always going up. It's not coming down. That is the only thing that matters to him. He doesn't care whether it's the CBN to blame, whether the politicians are stealing the money. All he cares about is 5 naira of today is not the 5 naira of yesterday. Of course, in the purchase power. Yes. Where do we lay this blame?
Okay, how any economy works is basically about a figure kind of leadership. Okay. A figure kind of leadership. I'll give you a classical example. When Donald Trump became the U.S. president, somebody has been established from the real estate business, came into American policy for the first time. He didn't have experience in terms of political, leadership. He just used his real estate business experience to rule the country, the huge like America. The Wall Street Journal, the stock market became something like, because they believe that Donald Trump is a businessman. They understand the workings of how this economy works in the global context. The stock exchange, shoot up. Okay. The problem we're having in the Nigerian economy today is not about, it's about leadership. Okay. And the person that's supposed to be driving the leadership is supposed to be the central bank governor. Okay. And they say control the monetary policy. Supposed to be driving the policy. The image of any economy is determined by how you manage your monetary policy and also your fiscal policy. Okay. Now, in most of our political leaders or people who find themselves in positions of authority are alarmist. They are not showcasing that the Nigerian economy can be better. They show that impression that our economy is weak. Our economy, America is in recession, but in terms of why is America in recession, it's as a result of leadership collapse in the whole structure of America. Because Biden wasn't the kind of impression that the American, when he was voted in as he's going to change, he's going to be better than Trump. And if what Trump was to be the U.S. president, that Russian war wouldn't have happened in the first place. America was supposed to take a lead to say, let us come to the round table and negotiate. Because it's about security. That's what brought to the war. And they undermined Russia by thinking maybe by putting sanction on Russia that will cripple Russia, but not knowing that Russia is a war power and has the capacity to withstand. Your countries like China and all the rest of them, Turkey cannot stand and see Russia being humiliated. So the point I'm making is that our country, why are we going through what we're going through today? Is as a result, there's a lack of leadership. Leadership from the people that are supposed to be leading and supposed to be calling the shot and supposed to be directing the economy. Because our country, our economy is consuming more than we produce. We're not producing enough. Everything is foreign exchange, foreign importation, bringing in things that most of the things we consume in this country, we don't need them. Like you rightly said, during the time, 20 years or like 25 years or 30 years, we had consistency in terms of production. Our local factories were producing most of the things that we consume. But today, we have allowed things that they're not supposed. China is producing today because is what producing country is the number one when it comes to
production.
But producing for the world. You know why China is leading is because China took advantage of some countries like in Africa and in Asia. That is why the things they bring into Europe and America, they have to produce according to American standard. So everything, most of the things that come into Africa are substandard things, and they consume this product, take away our foreign exchange. So we are dependent on China. We're dependent, Turkey. We're dependent on countries that we are supposed to be competing with. So they bring in products. When they bring in these products are substandard, and they take away our foreign exchange. So our local industries, our local consumption, nobody's checking them. Things are not going the way it's supposed to be going. And that's why we find ourselves today. And that's why we have the inflation. The inflation in the system can only be stopped if the government will pump in money into the Nigerian economy domestically.
So dollars or naira?
No, naira. you need to resurrect the naira, because if the naira, the way I'm seeing it now, it might hit 1,000 naira. Yes. The dollar might hit 1,000, and if it hits 1,000, that means Nigerian economy is beyond repair. But I don't see that happen.
All right, so
I don't see that happen.
Let me come back to Prof now. He made let's talk about something that is quite worrying. Our debt profile. That's 41.6 trillion. That's what we're talking about.
Yes.
And it was in January, it was 36
yes.
around that time. With the current rise in the dollar rate, that means we will have to be paying more to service
Absolutely.
this debt.
Yes.
And as time goes on, it's going to keep on increasing.
Yes.
How do we get out of this hole that we are digging for ourselves currently?
Ibrahim, is really a worrisome development. Let me even take it up from the issue that one of the points he made about leadership. Okay, I expect to see our leaders show example. So if we say we are pursuing an import substitution policy, if we say we are promoting locally made products, okay, then our leaders, should show example. When I say our leaders, I mean especially the government, the three arms of government, the executive arm, the National Assembly, the legislative, and the judiciary. They should show example. So I expect that the National Assembly, okay, all these three arms should going forward say their official cars must be assembled here or made in Nigeria. We have the innocents, for example. They should be patronized. And that's why I'm commending the government of Soludo in Anambra State that has already adopted it.
Okay.
Yes, the official cars are now from innocent. So let's patronize locally made products. Let Nigerians also support the bill, that says that if you are a public officer, or you're in government, okay, you don't have to have your kids studying abroad, because if the executive arm, the National Assembly, if their kids were here, I tell you, Ibrahim, this ASU strike wouldn't drag this long. It wouldn't be in this ASU strike for this long. So if you're a private person, of course, I don't have any problem with that. You are doing that with your private money. But if you are in government, your child or ward shouldn't be, abroad.
Right.
Okay, that is one way we can conserve, foreign currency. The issue of even medical tourism, you might say, because we don't have the facilities yet, you wouldn't want people to die here now. I may not talk about that one now, but that of education, okay, is something we can begin to, at least we can start to enforce.
All right.
Yes, on the issue of debt, as Reddy said, is quite high. Part of why it is 41.6 trillion naira now is because the conversion is at the exchange rate of maybe 400, 410 or 430, the official rate. The moment you use a rate that is higher to do the conversion, of course it will
go up.
It will balloon. So it is really worrisome. And one thing I also think we should do is to also curtail our penchant for taking commercial foreign loans.
Okay.
In recent times, Nigeria has increasingly patronized the Eurobond market. Eurobond market, that's international capital market, is not for concessional loans.
Okay.
So we should, if we must do external loans, then we have to, go through the World Bank, approach the World Bank, African Development Bank, multilateral agencies. Okay, these are the people that will give you loans and will also track what you are doing with the loan and ensure that the money is put in, developmental projects. But when you just issue bonds to international investors and they take your bonds, they are not after what you do with the money. All they're after is they get their interest at the end of the every period.
Well, that's quite interesting.
Yeah, so let us reduce the quantum of commercial loans, commercial foreign loans we have. That will help, help the situation.
All right, that is quite interesting way to look at it. Well, it's still Daily Politics on Trust TV. We'll take a short break right now, and when we return, the conversation continues. Do stay with us.
Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back, and if you're just joining us, this is Daily Politics on Trust TV. Now, we're still talking about the Nigerian economy, free fall of the Naira, and the implications to the general well-being of Nigerians, really. So, Prof, as we were saying, we're talking about some measures that we can be able to take so that we can be able to get out of this. However, we're meant to understand that the pillar of any economy, most economies are to stand on their small and medium-scale enterprises. That's SMEs now. Do you think, in your own opinion now, from the way you're looking at things, do you feel that the government has done enough or is doing enough to strengthen SMEs in Nigeria so that our economy can be able to stand on them?
Thank you very much, Ibrahim. Just as some people would say that for the naira to appreciate, we need to produce our way. We need to earn dollars. Okay. That means we need to produce our way out of the challenge. So having a solid productive base is the solution. Just as you rightly mentioned, we need to diversify our export base and depend less on oil. Ibrahim, do you know that most of the cargoes, ships, planes that come into Nigeria, that bring in goods, they leave empty?
Because there's nothing to take
Nothing
out.
to export. Nothing to export. So that is why we need to incentivize production, especially through SMEs, to ensure that we diversify our export base. Now, something, I wouldn't say nothing, has been done. Something has been done, but of course we need to do more, especially on the part of the central bank. Okay, I was telling you earlier that I needed to also tell you, what the central bank has done so far, to curtail demand. Okay, some time ago, the central bank placed a restriction on access to official forex, with regard to certain products that, are capable of being produced here. So if you are, for example, into rice, you want to import rice, central bank says they won't give you forex because do it locally here. If you must import, then go and source your forex from anywhere, but not from officials. So central bank identified 42 items in that category that we can produce in Nigeria, including toothpick. Yes, we are importing, the country imports toothpick. But I think with that policy, some of these items are now being produced here locally. Okay.
All right.
But, so that's one.
So how do you ban without putting measures to make sure that the production takes place? Do you ban first before you encourage production, or you encourage first before you ban?
Yes, as I mentioned, it's not an outright ban. Central bank didn't say they are banning. All they're saying is that
but they're putting a chokehold on it.
Yes, they won't allow you access to the official window. Yes, you can source your forex from anywhere. Okay, it is being done to promote this locally.
So which one should come first?
Made product. Yes, if you don't do that, okay, number one, you are eating deep into your scarce forex, external reserves.
Okay.
Yes, because all of these companies that are into that come to take forex from the official sources, and that will deplete external reserves. So that's one way to conserve reserves is to have this restriction so that these companies are now compelled to source their materials.
So that's a policy issue now.
Yes.
All right. So Dr. Jennings, well, it's politics, policy. Sorry. 41 items have been identified, just like he rightfully mentioned, and forest restricted on them. Okay, that is a policy. So on the policy side now, with industry players that are being given, big industry players, given parts tax holidays so that they can, and then at the end of the day, to the detriment of the small and medium-scale enterprises that we're talking about now, the SMEs. Are they not the one who are supposed to be giving these tax holidays and these waivers and that are being extended to big corporations and big companies, probably foreign ones and multinationals?
The problem again is the regulatory bodies that are assigned to actually superintend over some of these policies. Okay. Most times they don't know what they ought to be doing.
So the policies in themselves, they are sound?
Yeah, the policies are good.
Okay, it's the implementation that's the problem now.
The implementation and the people who have been assigned to regulate.
Okay, is it a question of capacity?
Well, it's not a question of capacity, it's a question of cutting corners. Cutting corners, let me explain. Okay. Cutting corners in the true sense that, the wealth is being stationary in certain corporations, certain individuals. It's not really, touching down to get into the nitty-gritty, I mean, get into everybody, there should be what I call wealth redistribution.
Okay.
That not wealth being in one particular, because the wealth is being, these monies we are talking about is in the hands of politicians.
Okay.
Few politicians and some corporate organizations. People like Dangote, them,
the big corporations that we're talking about that are getting the tax holidays and the waivers.
Yeah, so this thing should go round. It shouldn't be there shouldn't be any preferential treatment.
So how can we ensure that?
That's what I'm saying. This the regulatory commission bodies,
okay,
if they are really doing what they are being mandated to do, to make sure that these policies are fully implemented, to the letter. Because another thing is to implement is to formulate a policy. Another thing is to see that policy being implemented to the letter. So the point here is that if we want to get out of this inflection, if government is paying so much when it comes to our paying debts, we're feeling it outside. We're not feeling the money when they call trillions. It's supposed to be seen that an ordinary market woman supposed to feel the impact
of it,
that this money that they are calling is really getting to my. So there should be wealth redistribution in the sense that the problems or the hardship will not be felt.
Okay.
The way the way the people are feeling it now. There should be a point. There should be a policy that it should be mandatory.
Okay.
That people, everybody, once you're a Nigerian, you are allowed to function as a business person.
All right. So talking about that now.
Yes.
We had an economy recovery and growth plan.
Yes.
It was 2017 to 2020. Was it targeted, or was it able to address these issues that we're talking about right now?
Well, the target plan of recovery and economy was basically to raise Nigerians out of poverty.
Okay.
To raise Nigerians out of poverty. You can't raise people out of poverty when there's nothing to really get them out of poverty. For you to raise people out of poverty, you need to create wealth. You need to create environment for them to...
Like a metaphorical rope to pull them out of it.
You need to create environment for them to get out of poverty.
Exactly.
Because when IMF or World Bank, they give loans or they give palliatives or they give funds for countries that need them. Like I'll give you an example. Economy of China, Kenya right now is almost facing what we're facing, because at a point Kenya had to request $120 million from World Bank or IMF because there was no dollar to spend anymore. The economy is collapsed. One of the mainstay of the economy is tourism, and there's a collapse in that sector. You understand what I'm saying? So you look at Rwanda. Rwanda is a country that came out from war, from genocide. But go to Rwanda today and see the economy. It's the fastest growing economy in Africa. Why is it that? Leadership. It's a leadership. That's what we're saying. Everything about economy, about policy is about leadership. If you have a leader or you have managers, the people that manage your economy, they're not serious, because what the attitude, the body language, the way they behave, it's not about setting up conferences. It's not about calling the whole press conference and the people to churn out policy and you're telling them this is the measures or this is the measures you have taken to cushion the Nigerian economy. It's not about that. It's about leadership, because if you are a chairman of an organization, there are some requirements that position that you have occupied as a chairman. There are some things you don't need to say. There are some things you don't need to do. There's some behavioral pattern that people will look at you and believe that, oh, this economy can be trusted. As this chairman of this organization, he's competent enough to manage the economy. So what we have in Nigeria is that we have bad managers with bad policy.
All right, let me come to Prof. Now, Prof, can you weigh in on the effectiveness or otherwise of the ERGP that we just talked about now? Can you weigh in on the effectiveness or otherwise of it?
Yes. I think a major challenge with that EROGP, Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, in my view, is the fact that it even came late in the life of the administration. Remember the Buhari administration came to power in 2015,
But
we didn't have the ERGP till 2017.
But the ERGP was credited for bringing us out of recession in some quarters.
That's talking about the you know, when we were in recession in 2020, yes, the government implemented a very quick one, the sustainability plan, you know, that actually got us out of recession. Of course, that plan, you know, drew from the
ERGP, yes.
ERGP. Yes, to a large extent, yes. But again, if you also look at the targets in that ERGP, the major target in that ERGP has to do with attaining GDP growth rate of 7%. You know, over the period.
Did we achieve that?
Of course. Now you know the story. the latest figure we have. 2020, the economy was in a recession. The ERGP was meant to end of 2020. Okay, although we came out of it very quickly, but well, part of the blame has to do with the COVID-19. And again, we also know that between 2016, we had a crash in the crude oil price. So crash in crude oil price, COVID-19, all affected the implementation of the ERGP, which is why the government is now saying, okay, there should be an extension or a continuation, the National Development Plan 2021 to 25. But by and large, most of the initiatives in that plan, were not
diversification being one of them.
Implemented. Yes. Of course, that is at the heart of it. Because up till now, we shouldn't be talking about this heavy reliance, over-reliance on one particular product. One. Number two, by now, if you look at that document was talking about putting Nigeria in a position to even export petroleum products, a net exporter. But why are we still importing petroleum products up till now? Our refineries, are not working. Okay. Yes, and that is one of the major reasons why we're having this exchange rate issue, because from what we hear, over 30% of what we earn as forex is used to import petroleum products. And the more crude oil price rises in the international market, the more we spend importing. So it drills a hole in our external reserves. Thank God we have relatively sufficient reserves now. Nearly $40 billion. I think 39. 40. Yes, external reserves nearly 40 billion. So, and that's enough to finance many months of import. So,
but why are we borrowing? Why are we still borrowing?
Yes.
If we have foreign reserve, that amount.
Exactly. So
why are we still borrowing?
Yes. Part of why the reserves even grew. Yes. Has to do with the loan we took in March. In March we took $1.5 billion from Eurobond. Yes. Anytime you get a foreign loan, it goes to add to your reserves.
Your reserve.
Yes.
So the reserve now is being it's been replenished by the loans.
Yes, the loans are helping to grow the reserves. Another thing that has also happened is the fact that we are earning more from oil, although oil production is dropping, but price is rising. So that's also helping it. And thirdly, is what the central bank governor disclosed during the MPC meeting, the one they had on the 19th, that even from non-oil sources, that we are beginning to see some accretion, we are beginning to see some improvements in forex earnings. Due to one of the measures that the central bank, one of the programs or policies that are now pursuing, known as the Race to $200 billion program. So that has attracted, between January and June, about $600 million, have also come into the external reserves. So we have, why am I saying this? What is happening now in the forex market, especially in the parallel market, in my view, is likely to be temporary.
Okay.
Yes, temporary. Anybody speculating in that market now may eventually get his or her fingers burnt.
So there's still hope.
There is hope, and that hope is because of the reserves that we have.
Okay.
Any day the central bank decides to intervene to flood the market with forex, the exchange rate will crash.
All right. Well,
Yes.
That's very interesting. But it's still the market forces. Now.
Yes, Doc.
Yes.
Your final thoughts now.
Yeah,
on
you allow the market forces to determine how this flow.
Okay.
You know, the central bank, like Riley said, if they start to like pumping money, you know why the central bank will not do that? Because if the central bank decides to do that, there will be the inflation rate will be much higher than what we are in now.
If they pump dollars,
Yes.
it's not going to be higher. If they
No,
pump
but what I'm
dollars,
saying, yes, what I'm
the
saying,
exchange rate will crash.
what I'm
Okay.
saying, what I'm saying is that there will be too much money in the system to
Okay.
spend.
And that might cause inflation.
Yes, and when you have too much money in the system to spend, it's a problem. When you are not producing, you know, you're not producing what you are consuming. You know, you produce, you consume. But what we are consuming more than we are producing. So that's where the problem is.
All right. So, well, it has been a very interesting discussion. Unfortunately, we have to end it here because of time. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure having you on the program. Very, very interesting insights there concerning the economy. And we do hope sooner rather than later we'll get out of it. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you,
on the show.
Brian.
We pray that we'll get out of it. The new election there in 2023
Yes.
will determine
Which direction we're going.
It's the very political party that will come on stream
all right.
and to make a difference.
All right. So thank you very much for coming on the program. Well, this is where we draw the curtain on this episode of Daily Politics on Trust TV. Do well to join us again, same station. My name is Ibrahim Yusuf. Thanks for watching.